If you've been looking at cabin investment opportunities in Tuolumne County and running the numbers based on what you've seen on Airbnb or short-term rental listing sites, there's a good chance those projections are built on rules that changed over a year ago. Tuolumne County updated its short-term rental ordinance in January 2024, and the additions cost money that most online income calculators don't account for. Today, I'm walking you through what Tuolumne County actually requires of short-term rental operators right now, the inspections, the occupancy tax, the local contact requirement, and what realistic income looks like once you factor in all of it. I'm Melissa Valalunga, Realtor and Senior Partner with Twain Harte Homes and Land at Real Broker. I grew up in Twain Harte, I live here year-round, and I work with a lot of buyers who are coming into this market specifically for the STR opportunity. By the end of this, you'll know the compliance requirements every STR operator in Tuolumne County has to meet, and you'll have a realistic picture of what the numbers look like before you make an offer. The January 2024 update added several new requirements that weren't in the previous ordinance. First, every short-term rental property in the county now has to pass a fire and life safety inspection before it can operate. The initial fee for the application and inspection is approximately $600, and the fire and life safety portion of the certification is valid for 2 years, so you'll recertify on a 2-year cycle. For most well-maintained mountain cabins, passing this inspection is straightforward, but if you're buying a property with deferred maintenance, older smoke detectors, missing carbon monoxide alarms, a wood stove that hasn't been serviced in years, you need to budget for bringing it up to standard before your first guests arrive. Second, every STR must have a designated local contact person available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, who must be able to respond in person within 60 minutes. This person is responsible for responding to complaints, guest emergencies, and anything that comes up during a stay. If you're a remote investor, Bay Area, Sacramento, Modesto, you'll want a local property manager who can fill that role. That's a recurring cost that frequently gets left out of STR income projections, and it can run several hundred to over $1,000 a month depending on the management arrangement. Now, this next part affects your pricing more than most investors expect. Tuolumne County charges a 12% transient occupancy tax on all short-term rental revenue. If you're operating through Airbnb, the platform handles collection and remittance to the county directly, so you don't have to manage that manually. But the tax affects where your listing sits competitively. When a guest books your cabin at $180 a night, they're paying 12% on top of that in county taxes, plus Airbnb's service fees. That affects how your nightly rate compares against other comparable destinations in the same search results. If you're pricing to maximize occupancy, the effective cost to the guest is meaningfully higher than your headline rate. That's something worth modeling carefully before you set your rates and write your income projections. Based on current STR data for Tuolumne County, the median cabin earns about $36,000 per year at roughly 53% occupancy and a $180 average daily rate. Those numbers are real, and for the right property at the right acquisition price, the math can work. Another thing to consider, and a question that gets asked a lot: fire insurance. Fire insurance is absolutely available for mountain properties in Tuolumne County. That's the first thing to know. What you do want to look into before you close is what it's currently costing for the specific property you're buying, because it does vary. Add the STR inspection, local property management, cleaning fees between stays, routine cabin maintenance, and annual carrying costs, and your expense line looks different than the headline revenue number suggests. The investors I see do well in this market are the ones who run the honest numbers first, not the optimistic projection, the actual one. If you're evaluating a Tuolumne County cabin as an STR investment, the 4 things you need to get right are the mandatory fire and life safety inspection, the 12% transient occupancy tax, the 24/7 local contact requirement, and what fire insurance is actually costing operators right now. Get those numbers dialed in before you go under contract, and you'll have a clear picture of what you're actually buying. If you want me to walk through a real investment analysis on a specific property you're considering, call or text me at 209-352-8528 or visit melissamtnhomes.com to schedule a consultation. I'm happy to run the actual numbers with you, settle on a property, not a best-case scenario. the full picture. I'm Melissa Vallelunga with Twain Harte Homes and Land at Real Broker. I'll see you in the next one. Warmly from the mountains.